Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Councilor Cody.
Present.
Councilor Kraft.
Here.
Councilor Larochelle.
Here.
Councilor Lunt.
Here.
Councilor Mason.
Here.
Councilor Pomelo.
Here.
And Councilor Bowie is here. Okay, before we start off, Twyla, I'd just like to give a little brief recognition. We have a Voice of Democracy Patriots pen winners that came about. A bunch of Lisbon students won this award for pen writing. And one of the participants, Delane Willette, who happens to be, I believe, Dot Fitzgerald's granddaughter, great-granddaughter. Geez, I didn't think you were that old, Dot.
First prize for the middle school division.
That's great. First prize for the middle school division. So just,
The VFW.
yeah. So we just wanted to recognize them for all the good writing that they did in their efforts for their pen writers, for the Voice of Democracy of Patriots. So with that, we don't have any public hearings, do we?
Right.
Okay, so our first item then.
Is Order 2010-60, consent agenda, to approve the renewal vitular applications, plus mobile home park licenses for Colonial Gardens Park and the Town and Country Mobile Home Park. And then the Sabatis Creek Mobile Home Parks license pending the list of owners as of April 1st is received.
Make a motion that we accept the agenda as listed.
I have a motion from Councilor Larochelle and a second from Councilor Pomelo. All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Under Council Orders, Resolutions, and Ordinances, Order 2010-61, quitclaim deed for sewer lien.
This was a lien that somebody came in to pay for closing. Normally, we would just give them a receipt and a discharge. Their bank has requested that we do a quitclaim deed just so they can close on this house. It's all been paid.
Okay. So this is, they've paid the sewer, the outstanding sewer bill, and this is just releasing the lien on the sewer.
That's right.
Just fire a quitclaim deed for their bank. Okay. Questions from council on this? I'd entertain a motion.
We all have a copy of it in our folders. Is this something that you're going to have signatures for?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a folder here for
Okay, you have
signatures
your
later,
name,
Roger.
okay.
Yep. We'll do that at the end.
Make a motion that we accept the quitclaim deed.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Councilor Larochelle and a second from Councilor Crafts. Any further discussion from council? Comments from the public? All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Very good.
Next item. Or two.
Yeah.
She used to be a crafts.
I used to be a Crafts. I'm a
Oh.
Mason now.
Sorry,
I've been for 31 years, Mike.
sorry. Thank you, Chief.
Order 2010-62, warrant for school budget validation referendum, June 8, 2010.
Okay, so what we have is for the school budget validation referendum, the two questions on there to adopt the budget, and one, whether it's too high or too low. We're also setting polling hours, Twyla, as well, as part of
Yes.
this. So the polling hours, and we're saying 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the polling hours. And they will be
7 a.m.
at the superintendent's office, gymnasium, and MTM will be the other area for voting, Ward 2. And absentee ballots can be cast up into Election Day at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m., and 8 p.m. And then the registration hours are available June 1st through 4th and 7th from 8:30 to 4:30, and at the town clerk's office, and on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the polling locations.
We have one typographical error that needs to be changed. The polling hours are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there are 3 questions on your
Where's the third one?
It's in your packet to be signed. Jody?
Whether or not you want to continue.
Correct.
Oh, right, that's right. I thought that was missing, right. So there's a third question on there as to whether or not the citizens want to continue voting on the school budget,
Yes.
because it was just a 3-year requirement based on the state. Yep,
So that will be on there as well.
okay.
There's a corrected warrant in your packet to sign.
And do we have to put, do we have to list the budget information by category or whatever on the warrant?
It's, the school department will give us a summary sheet, and the summary sheet is posted on the wall as you go into the polling place. And so the numbers are available, they're not on your ballot specifically. The question is, do you want to approve the budget the council adopted on this date?
Okay.
But the school budget will provide, the school board will provide the breakdown and the summary for these lines.
Okay. All right. So, any questions?
So actually
On-
having it that way makes it all or nothing. You either accept it the way it is, it's
Right.
not really by line item.
Right.
You can actually look at the, I think it's broken down per article, but actually you're voting on the final dollar.
What the state requires us to.
Right. Any questions from council? Would entertain a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the warrant for the school budget as shown, except for the correction with the third and the change of the date, times.
Yep, and
Right.
that's in your packet, yep, for signing.
Okay. So I have a motion from Councilor LaRochelle and a second from Councilor Crafts. Any discussion from council? Comments from the public? Yes, sir?
Did the council officially accept the school budget?
Not as yet.
So,
We have to do that by, I believe it is May 25th.
May 25th.
so you're just putting it on
We're just-
whatever it is?
We're putting an article out there which the article doesn't have any dollar value to it.
Okay, okay.
The article just says, do you want to approve the budget?
Okay.
And if you don't, do you want it, is it because it's too high or too low?
Okay.
Mike, I have a question. Didn't we used to have a line in there that said, obviously town council approves it, but didn't we also have a line in there, provision for the advisory board making a recommendation for that budget as well?
So on because on the warrant, on the actual question, it should be recommended by the town council and the advisory board, if the advisory board so elects. But we'll have to do that by the 25th. So we'll work out on one of our next meetings to get that in place so that we can post the warrant appropriately.
Okay.
Good point. Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Okay, next item.
Under other business, financial director's report.
Okay,
Hello. We're still online for our spending. I gave you the expense report and revenue side in your packets. We're 82% collected for our excise. State revenue sharing is down, and we've collected 58% of that. So unless you guys have any questions for me.
are there any expenditures that stand out, Jessica,
No,
where we're over?
Public Works.
not for this month.
If you look at the Public Works winter budget, we're over by 41,000, and it's because of cost, not because of labor, but it's because of purchasing of sand and salt.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was looking at that from a year-to-date, not a month.
Okay. Council have any questions on the expenditures?
Explanation of the town engineer line
Town engineer,
project.
what's the specific question?
That would be the overdraft for some of the work that.
That's being done
on
down
the
below.
Route 9.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh,
We spent it
We
almost
send it through his,
300%.
we keep it separate but it's,
Okay.
it runs through his budget.
So I have a question on the winter public works. Was that, do we need to buy more sand and salt than usual, or was it the price went up? What was the issue there?
Well, we always overrun that budget in that line because we never know what we're going to get for storms, and the price is sometimes variable when we go to purchase it. So we try to lock in, like with AvCog every year. And sometimes we go other places, but
but we didn't use everything we purchased.
no, we did not.
So we went out and bought in bulk like we normally would,
We
and,
have some left over for next year.
exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Revenues, any questions on revenues? Everything is tracking well,
Yes.
so we're not going to underrun revenues this year?
I don't know.
I suspect we
Fair.
will on the revenue sharing. Looks like we're on target for the excise tax.
Yes.
I suspect that the revenue sharing is going to be off this year, unless people start spending more money in the next few months.
Let's see. Why do we have a negative uncollected balance for solid waste permits?
On a year, I'll have to look into that line and get back to you.
Oh, it's because it's probably, we don't necessarily account for it as a separate item, solid waste permits. It comes, we itemize it when it comes in, but we don't necessarily itemize it. It comes in as a solid, a total, if I'm correct in assuming that, but
So,
I'm sure that's how it's done.
so the 100,000 in recycling revenue includes everything?
Yeah.
Includes the permits and everything, okay.
Just look at your budgeted net.
Yeah.
And you don't see any numbers below that, but we break it down when it comes in by those specific areas so we can track how we do. And it'll show up uncollected because it's not budgeted for.
Right. We should have some history where we can actually project the revenues at that level. Any other questions on revenue?
The only question I had was on the Homestead Exemption, Homestead Act. I mean, that basically just money that comes in and goes out, but we don't actually figure any of that money for our yearly budget because it's actually
No.
not sticking money. It's actually money comes in and goes out.
Yep. We account for it when we do the commitment as a revenue.
Yep.
Comes off the total assessed value.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Okay, next item.
Town managers report.
I really don't have much since I gave you a report last week. I did attend the AvCog General Assembly annual meeting. I act as the secretary for that and got reappointed to that position. Commissioner Cole spoke about the rail and what they're expecting for that and money that's been put into that from the federal government and state government. If you have been up on King Road, they're doing quite a bit of work up there. They're making really good progress. Eventually, we'll start seeing that road being torn up and worked on, so otherwise, that's all I have.
They're going to be tearing into the Upland Road at all this year?
That's what I was
Yes.
questioning. They're cutting quite a bit of trees there already.
Yeah.
Is that just down on one
Is that-
personal property? or-
That's personally being cut up there on the other end, though, I believe. isn't it?
Right, the end up by Route 9.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think that's a person, I think somebody's harvesting that or whatever.
Right, I don't think that
I don't
has to
think
do
that's
with
in
the road.
relation.
Private
That's
too.
Mr. Nizel.
Knees off, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
on his property,
Yeah.
he's cutting that himself.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to start construction on that road this year or not.
Well, we'll be doing the water line, and they'll be doing some work. I don't think they're going to finish it this year, but they're going to be doing some work on it.
And has it been bid yet? Supposed to be
I
first
think it's supposed to go out in May,
May, yeah.
so it hasn't, I don't think it's gone out yet.
It's supposed to be May.
Steve, I seen some surveying down by the boat launch up to Big Dipper. Is that for the trail? Is that starting the surveying of the trail? Or,
Yeah, I think it's part of it. I don't know if Ryan's put it out to bid yet.
Yeah.
There's some surveying because the property was sold, I think,
Okay.
down in that area, so they might be surveying for lines.
I know Ryan had come ahead for money to get started on some of that, so I wasn't sure if that was actually happening yet or not. And and just one other question was, that I see they're doing a lot of blasting on Route 9, which, is the blasting they're doing now for the road or for the water? Both. Both? Okay. Is the water still kind of coming in kind of close, or is it a lot of this blasting kind of unexpected in that area? or-
We're on track, from what I've seen of what Ryan has spent so far and what we've budgeted for. So we won't really know until they get farther up, because they've got to remove some of this ledge, and once they get out of the main section of the road, where right now they're kind of under parts of it, and they have to lay down more pavement. Once they get beyond that, where they can be in the ditch more, they'll start laying pipe pretty fast.
It's good. I just see a combination of the two contractors in that same area working, so I wasn't sure if that was,
Mr. Upham has called because he was concerned about getting some water, and I had to refer him off to Paul Adams and Ryan, because we won't know until we get up that far what we have spent, if we have anything left over.
What's going on Upland Road? Is that part of the trail? I see they're putting black pipe in on the side
Yeah,
of the road.
that's down by the bridge, that's all trail.
That's part of the trail?
Yeah.
Right, they got to extend that past Mr. Ricker's front driveway and everything to get to the,
So is that going to be like
Sidewalk.
drainage pipe that they're putting in?
As far as I know, yeah. Water pipe?
water pipe. Oh, okay, for where they, okay.
yeah, they bought all the water pipe at one time, right?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. Some of it's down by the park, by the falls.
Okay,
All right, that's all I have.
okay. Next item?
Is under audience participation. At this time, those in the audience who wish to address the council may come forward. Please use the microphone.
Any audience participation? Okay, seeing none. Next item?
Under appointments, Order 2010-63, appoint election clerks.
Okay, we have in our packet the election clerks for the upcoming votes. And now, is this going to cover?
The two-year appointment for
Okay.
Democrats and Republicans.
Okay. So we have a list.
I just have a comment on one of the Republican lists. I think Lise Tancred doesn't live in town anymore, does she?
Moved?
I think they moved to Monmouth.
Oh, I know they were building out there. I didn't know they finally moved.
I think so. Dale, they did
Yeah,
move?
I
yeah.
think so too. I don't know if they officially moved in out there, but I thought she was gonna be out there
Yeah, I
by now.
think she was, because she,
You may not be aware, but they did pass a law that, in the statutes, it says now that if you're unable to find election clerks in your own town, you're able to use out-of-town residents.
well, she still owns
Not-
property in town, but she
Do
doesn't
that,
live
right?
here, so,
Yep. Not that we would call her back, but,
okay.
yeah, we wouldn't call her if she
Hope
lived
I'm
in
right.
town. We have plenty in town to use.
Right.
No, maybe it's registrars instead of election clerks. Maybe it's registrars that you can use if they're non-residents. One or the other.
Okay, so we have the list for the Republicans and the Democrats, and I'm not going to read them all. But if council's willing, I'm willing to entertain a motion.
make a motion that we accept the list for the Democrats and Republicans as submitted.
I have a motion from Councilor LaRochelle.
I'll second that, Mike.
I have a second from Councilor Cody. Any further discussion? Comments from the public? All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Okay, next item,
Counselor Communications.
Councilor Communications. Do we have any communications? Anybody got anything specific? Of interest, good standing? Whatever?
Wow. Are we going to have any type of discussion as a council about the personal property tax issue that's wobbling around town right now?
We can?
I think it needs to be discussed amongst the councilors.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I'm okay with entertaining that discussion at one of our next meetings or whatever.
Well, I think it needs to be discussed, because we're going to, being hammered on, and we're going to be continually be hammered on. We ought to at least know what we're supposed to be, what
So,
direction we're supposed to be going
We'll put
in.
that on our next agenda, under other business. Anything else?
All set?
All set? Okay. Next item,
Is under executive session, Order 2010-64, to go into executive session per 1 MRSA, Section 405, 6C, Economic Development.
entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion that we go into executive session with all the numbers that she just said.
I have a motion from Councilor Mason.
I'll second that.
I have a second from Councilor Pomelo. All those in favor?
Order passed,
Can
7-0.
be back here.
And we'll go into the conference room back here because we'll come back out of executive session, then we have adjournment, and then we'll be going into a budget workshop.
Sounds like a plan.
Put us on hold.
was on there for other types of issues.
Before we actually go into adjournment, I forgot under council communication, so I apologize. But I wanted to put a bug in council's ears to see if they were interested in changing the council meetings from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock. If that was I know most other communities are meeting now around 6 o'clock, but I didn't know if there's any issues with council and trying to get out of work and make the meeting schedules and stuff like that, but I'd be interested in council's opinion, think about it, if we would be interested in changing the times to 6 o'clock, which might get us out of here maybe a half an hour earlier.
Are you talking for every meeting or
Yeah,
just the
for-
budget time?
No, just for all of our meetings going forward, really. To change them to a 6 o'clock time. It's just something I had thought about based on seeing and watching some of the other municipalities around. And I know we had, back when we were selectmen, we were meeting at 7 because a couple of our selectmen couldn't get here until that time. So I think they actually used to meet at 6, and then we adjusted to 7. We kind of just kept that, but if council was interested and it made better use of council's time and got you home a little earlier and still got the business of the community done, I just put that out there for food for thought, and let me know, and if you guys are okay with it, we can do something. If not, we'll continue to go as we're at.
We could even split the difference and do 6:30, if 6
Yeah.
o'clock was too early.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do either, but
So I ask you just to think about it and
I can do it.
let me know.
I can do it on Tuesdays.
So with that, the next item is to,
Adjourn.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mike.
I have a motion from Councilor Cody.
I'll second that.
I have a second from Councilor Palmelo. All in favor?
Quarter past.
And we're adjourned. We will now move into a budget workshop, but I'll take about a 5-minute recess or whatever. Council, I need you to sign paperwork before we go into the budget workshop.
hasn't been done here before, I guess, and we need to do it, is that council needs to propose for a budget, just for public discussion. It's not an adopted budget. It needs to be put into the paper 2 weeks prior. We have not done that before, but Tom and Claus in the charge today, they need to do it. So the question is, do you feel the need, we tentatively have it scheduled for May 11th, which at that time will give us plenty of time to do the announcements, put it in the paper, what have you. So the question I have is, do you still see the need for the public hearing next week? Or do you want to just call that off and we'll just have one public hearing on the 11th?
I personally think we should wait until we have a summarized budget that we're ready to propose to them. If we have to do that by the charter, that we move the public hearing to as soon as we can, knowing what we've got to post. But I think tonight we need to agree on whatever summarized budget we want to present, and then get that public hearing notice out, and then schedule the public hearing appropriately. What's that one?
We're stuck in this right along, aren't we?
I'd like to hear from the public before we present a official budget, rather than present something and then hear from the public and wait till they go and change it.
Well, again, the summary budget, right, the budget that you give to the public is it's as close as we are at the time, right, of what we've discussed. And we're looking for their opinions towards that, knowing we're still going to make changes to that. I mean, we're not signing up that that's the budget, there's a summary in there, right? The whole idea of the public hearing is to have a budget for the public, for them to comment on and make a value decision on whether or not they think it's too high, too low, or if there are areas they think we could make improvements on or whatever, and provide us all that input, and then we go back and digest everything they said and make changes or additions or whatever it is that they requested of us. I mean, so don't think that whatever we put out in the paper is what we cast in concrete, because it's not. Again, that's the whole idea of the public hearing. I mean, I guess the unfortunate or fortunate thing is that we have one conversation. Please.
I think the public's input into it, we may take this to a public meeting, Mike, and there may be an overwhelming group to raise our taxes like $3 million and take care of the problem. We don't want to lay off school teachers, and we don't want to lay off town employees. We, who knows what this town's going to do?
Absolutely.
And I think that by getting that information out to go to a public meeting and letting the people come in and voice their opinions is the only way we're going to retrieve that information.
And that's what we'll do with the public hearing.
But why, you said you want to do away with the public hearing?
No, I'm not doing away with the public hearing. Right? The charter, right? Let's try and make sure we can make sense of it. The charter requires, right, it's written, do you have it, Steve, that I can see? The charter is written in such a way, that says that the town council shall provide a summary budget for the public hearing, which means that has to go into the paper, right? So we have to come up with a summary budget at some point in time. Now, we have to post the public hearing 14 days prior to being able to have the public hearing. So we can't put something in the paper today and have a public hearing next Tuesday, right? So what I'm trying to get a feel from everybody is that we'll have to come up with, based on the time window that we have to try and get through all of this, if we post something within the next day or two, we can support a public hearing in 14 days, which would be roughly around May 11th, right? So we could schedule a public hearing for May 11th. We would put within the next day or two in the paper what we want to present for a summary budget. And Then we would go listen to what the public has to say about that summary budget. And we would then take that information back and make whatever changes. If they said raise it 3 mils and don't make everything right, that's what we'll go do. If they say cut it, we're gonna have to go figure out what else we can potentially cut. I mean, that's, right, the charter says we have to publish something. And unfortunately, we haven't published it in past years. We didn't recognize that. Steve found that today, in going through, reviewing the charter and the things that we're having to follow to stay in line with stuff, and so we have to do that.
We haven't dealt with it in the past, why are we bringing it this year?
Well, because I've asked Steve to make sure that we're following the charter as accurately as we possibly can, because we've been beaten up in past for not following the charter requirements. So I asked him to make sure we're doing everything as close as we can to dotting all the i's and crossing all the t's. So you can blame it on me for asking him to do that.
Do we have a summary, anywhere near a summary budget that we can present?
I do believe we have. I do too. Again, it's a summary budget, it's not gas and concrete, and it's a starting point to listen to what people, the public wants to say to us. Right? I mean, you gotta give them a number someplace that says, this is too high, or this is too low, or this is okay, guys.
Is this the public hearing we are also to attend? I'm a little concerned if we don't have it in the next few weeks, we're not gonna have time, depending on what the outcome is of public comment, to be able to meet the June referendum date with the final budget for
Well,
us.
we still have 2 weeks after the public hearing to approve your budget.
Right, but we still have to work on it, depending on what the townspeople are saying to us. And I'm just a little concerned that 2-week window is not gonna be big enough with holidays in between and all that stuff at the end of May.
Well, I mean, we can have the public hearing next week, but we'll have nothing to present. The school budget can present their current budget, but we won't have anything that we can present because we won't have officially had a summary budget to present to the municipality. One of the things I wanted to try and avoid, and my plan was to ask council tonight, is we're gonna put together a listing of all the departments, what last year's budget was, what this year's budget was, what the difference is, and have an explanation sheet of why the increases and decreases and what they were. And then we're gonna go through at the public hearing each department. If you have any questions on town manager, if you have any questions on police, if you have any questions on fire, if you have any questions on finance, right? And let people ask questions on those specific budgets and provide their input.
Is it other realm of possibilities to have a separate meeting for the school than the municipal side?
Charter doesn't specify.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
The school feels they did. If the if the school feels that they want to present their budget, let them present their budget in their meeting. Let that be dealt with, and then let us have our own public meeting to deal with the municipal side of the budget.
But I think we have to be careful. I think it has to be the council that presents the budget, because it's the council that's bringing the budget according to the charter forward to the public. The school department has brought it to us, so we would have to be there. I mean, granted, the school department answer all the questions and do all that stuff, but I think council needs to be there and run that public hearing in support of the school.
And it is important that the public is at the same time too, to kind of get a feel of what.
But at the same, and also to the point of the charter, if we're presenting the budget, we really have to present the school's budget in that summary as well. They have to be a line item in our summary that says their budget is X number of dollars. And that hasn't been done yet either.
Just two concerns. One is, the idea of listing it, publicly noticing it, it doesn't have to be for our first public hearing, it could be for our last public hearing also. I mean, it doesn't, because we originally intended to have 2 public hearings, an initial one and a final one. I mean, the documentation you're talking about, putting into in the paper ahead of time, could actually be for our last public hearing, okay? So it isn't something we have to do for the first public hearing.
So what are you going to present to the first public hearing?
Actually, I was just going there. But you can finish it if you want.
No, I don't know what you're gonna present, I'm listening.
The only thing, and my second concern was, again, I don't have the answer, is the idea of, when we started the process this year, we actually made a comment, and it was asked multiple times, where we were gonna have these workshops with no input from the public, under the agreement that would have a couple public hearings along the way, so we'd actually get some feedback. If we were to actually have this next Tuesday, and allow the, to present the school, to get that moving forward, and is it still possible to actually have some opportunity for the public to weigh in on our budget, even though we're not actually laying it out? I mean, the people that are gonna give input are the people who listen to it along, that have an opinion or a feeling. I mean, not, even though it's not binding or have the official documentation, we still could actually get some input.
If you leave tonight with an agreement on a basic summary that you all agree upon, that you want to put out there to test the waters and see what the public thinks, we could have that sheet ready for Tuesday. And it just won't meet our criteria, and we still have to have a meeting for the 11th. And you hold 2 public hearings, nothing
But that's what
wrong
we're
with
planning
that.
on anyways. I mean, I guess my
Well,
point was that.
we aren't gonna hold 2 public hearings like we're planning. We're gonna hold 1 public hearing where we're doing it LES, where everybody can come and go through both. The other one was just gonna be at one of our normal workshops here for any additional input, is what we had agreed to.
So it brings us back to the original point that we can't hold the public hearing next week because we haven't done proper notification, and we, wishful thinking that we would come up with a summary sheet, but likely may not come up with a summary sheet. It doesn't sound like school departments. You guys probably have the summary sheet.
Yeah, it's our articles.
Right, it's articles for them, but they would be able to go forward, but the proper notification hasn't been notified.
I think our meeting time is only, what, 7 days, something like that? Isn't that public hearing notice?
14 days,
14 days.
according to the charter. So both budgets would have to be put into the local paper 14 days prior to the meeting. So, but you can still hold your public hearing on the 27th, and just hold it, and we'll have, the summary sheets will be in the paper before that public hearing on the 27th, because we have to get it in the paper, so it's 2 weeks ahead of time. So we should have, if we don't come away tonight with something, then check the calendars and look at how we're gonna do this.
See if we can look at that.
I didn't want to go to a waste time, I didn't want to look like we're doing a public hearing for nothing, but I mean, it's just our original intention was, in the start of the budget process, was to have at least 2 public hearings, but I'm just going back to what we originally.
Okay? So we'll wait and see where we end up tonight?
I have a suggestion. If it's possible, that's all.
Yeah.
If you could, as a council, kind of decide whether you're going to support what the school budget has been put in and just, or not tonight. Then combine that with what you already agreed to could be a tax increase, informally agreed to. Then you know where you've got dollars to spend or not. So if you could decide whether or not you're going to endorse the school budget as it is, that would be a major start. That's where you're going. Thought.
Yeah. I mean, we can't take an official vote, but we can draw a head count or whatever that says whether or not the council is willing to support the school budget. I would say based on the presentation we got last time, the council doesn't have any issues with the school budget, because there was no questions of that, so I'm assuming either they didn't have any details they needed to look at, or
We could come up with 7.2 of a mill rate increase.
their budget was .712, I think,
To
yeah.
support that.
Yeah.
Is this council ready to put that out there?
I'll personally go on record saying that based on what I saw from the school department, and what I think they've done, and the efforts that they've gone through, I'm willing to support that. Knowing that it's a .71 increase.
without knowing what the town municipal side is gonna have to do, you're still willing to support that?
I get some numbers too, and it depends on which we use exactly. I get .696, but a 1 mil increase, which you guys have all talked about, is a budget of about 115,000 gap. So, and it goes up from there. And he's got one, that one, he just gave us 161, so there we go.
We're not far. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Okay, I'll go through mine?
Yep.
Okay. You have a spreadsheet in front of you. And you look to the very bottom, it gives you a total of $161,449 over last year's budget, which is a 2% increase over last year's budget. Okay? What we did to arrive at that, let me tell you, I'm going to highlight some of the areas. We have cut 3 full-time positions by not filling. They're positions that are currently empty, and we will not fill them, okay? And we also have 2 part-time positions that we have cut that will not be filled as well. So as that stands on the personnel end, right now, we are not going to be laying anybody off that's working full-time. Okay, that's on the personnel side. What we did, and I'll start with the town manager's budget. I took $500 out of that. On the assessing side, I took reval out, $58,000. On the town building side, I took out the addition to the public works, which was $75,000. And Ryan also gave me another $5,000 that we could take out. So we took a total of $80,000 came out of that budget, okay? Mark also gave me a $25,000 cut in his budget. He's basically staying flat. He, which is what he had same as what he had last year, $141,871. I took $5,000 out of contingency to hold that flat at $10,000. I adjusted all the wages for 1.75 and took out the remainder, which we had originally put in a 3% increase. I also took out 53rd week, which was $86,783. So that's been taken out. I also took out $55,000 out of public works that was put in there by mistake. Did not need to have that $55,000 in there. Okay, those are the areas I have cut. Now, what that also keeps in the front end loader for public works, 4-in-1 bucket for transfer station, as well as a container for the transfer station. It adds our additional police car that we didn't put in last year. And it also puts in hopefully a lease of a Trek sidewalk machine, not a Bobcat, it's a Trek, that we hopefully will be able to lease for 1 year to see how we do. I have to negotiate that stuff. But that way we know if we can't manage it well enough, we still have the option to go back and deal with Mr. Murray. So that's what that does. That 161,000 is 2% increase, along with the school budget. That puts us between 75 cents and $1 over our current tax rate, based on, this is very important, based on the current valuation that we have on the books, the same dollar amount of total valuation that we had last year. We will gain some of new structures and things like that. There should be some additional. I have no idea how much. So I'm basing it strictly on, like I've said before, I back into my tax rate. I look at what we had last year and then try to back into it, so I know how it's going to impact us. That also includes a $350,000 addition from our undesignated fund balance, which is, I'm hoping, part of that, it won't all come out of the undesignated fund balance. It will be funding that we roll back in after the end of the year, when everything that we don't spend goes back. We should have close to that, hopefully, to go back into the undesignated fund balance.
Just a quick question, if that fund balance, the money's rolled back in and we take 350,000 out of there, are we maintaining that percent that we're supposed to?
Yes, that's my prediction, that we will still maintain the same, roughly the same as what we have now.
No. Yeah. Well, you got like 1.2 million, right? What that would tell me is if you're gonna take 350,000 out, that means you're gonna put 350,000 back in to maintain what we got that.
Well,
But, I mean, we're not gonna, we don't have $350,000 left over on our budget. I mean, we just went through the financials and it looked like we're gonna be right on it.
well, on the revenue side, you're gonna be close, okay? But you still have an overlay that you haven't tapped into for any great amount. What was the overlay last year? 360 some odd thousand?
Right, and you're taking out, 53,000 of that now?
Speak out.
I have a question. Mr. Eldridge and Mr. Dow have both stressed the importance of bringing our valuation up. They've both stressed how much money we are losing in tree growth and other things. I can't see not doing the revaluation and losing all of that additional money. This is, you're saying one thing, and then you turn around and say another.
Right, but we're not gonna, we wouldn't see that money this year, right? The money that we're taking out is to go do all the measuring and everything. We're still doing the land use piece that we talked about earlier, that's in process, that will do a little something and can probably be implemented either fall of this year or maybe spring of next year, March of next year. But the measurements of the building, you won't, if we did that this fall, you wouldn't see that for at least a year.
A year.
Right.
And
So
let me
so we wouldn't be
explain
seeing that.
why I took it out. The reason it came out is because this council stressed very adamantly that they wanted it out of the budget. And that's why it came out. If I had my choice, it would stay in for all the reasons that you say. But if you want to try to hold the tax rate down, then you need to make the sacrifices. And you don't want to lose people, so you can maintain the same level of service. It's, you know, you're losing 3 full-time people and 2 part-time people. Believe me, it's not going to be a cakewalk. I mean, you keep losing people every year, and you're still providing the same level of service. It's just putting more stress on the people in these departments to produce the jobs and get the work done. The workload doesn't change. You still got to plow streets, you still got to police, cover fire, and so.
I keep bringing up something else, professional development, and I don't know if everyone has a copy of this, but you could pass it around. And then I got onto the Maine Municipal Association website, and here's the, it's not in this way. We pay a lot of professional development, over $31,000 a year. Maine Municipal Association offers professional development. And then when I got on the MMA website, I find that Mr. Eldridge is on the Professional Development Committee.
No, I'm not.
You're not?
No,
Your name is on.
I'm not on it. I was at one time.
You was, okay, well, it's there, you're still showing that, you're on it. And they offer professional development for $50, $100, and we're paying a lot of money for professional development. And I just think that that's the way to save. It's not a lot, but $31,000, I guess is a lot.
Can I ask you a question about the assessing force? I have a comment to keep on that too. Are we going to have any, when the land valuation is done this year, will we be taking our evaluation of town at above 70%? So that we will get credit for tree growth?
I mean, I don't know what the actual percentage increase is, but we'll be adjusting it to whatever that land value change
So whatever,
allows us
the
to.
building thing wouldn't have hit it anyway, it's
Right.
only going to be.
Right,
So if we put it off a year, we won't get it next year either.
right.
So we got another year of that. Plus, the homestead exemption has been lowered by the state from 13,000 to 10,000. So if we have a flat budget, an absolutely flat budget, we cut tax increase.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm just, whatever we do, whether that's in there or not, isn't going to make any difference.
Well, it'd be higher if we did have that. That extra, 50,000. Somewhere.
It was 56,000, you said?
For the 58,000.
I think it would almost work out to break even though, I don't know. Because if you're getting 56% of 13,500 now, that's what, about $6,500, $7,000? And if you're gonna get 70% of 10,000,
Right, exactly.
right, you're gonna, so.
If we get it.
Right. So if the land brings us up to the 70%, the fact that the state reduced the homestead, will still potentially get, the taxpayer will still get the same credit on their bill. If that land value brings us up to the 70% mark.
And the other question I had is, when you said the 161.5 plus the school, that's 423. That's more than a mill.
Yeah, but we change, I base it on the tax rate calculation sheets and jockey around with some of the overlay, so it depends on what the overlay is. And I can't quote that it's going to be exactly $1, because I don't know what the final numbers will be come August when all the new value is put into the system. And it's hard to predict today. I don't know what the building permit process has been, so it's slow as long.
Other questions from council or advisory?
Yeah, there was a detective position lost in the police force.
Yes, right.
Is that number been taken out of the total budget? Now, does the car go with it? There were detective cars involved at one time.
It doesn't go with the personal. It's still it's a fleet.
It's part of the fleet, but we haven't
It
get
gets
persons
used by a
to
lot.
drive it. Why do we need the car?
There's two detectives, 2 cars now. There was 3 detectives, 2 cars before, if I was correct.
Right, you had 3 detectives with 2 cars, now you got 2 detectives.
2 detectives, 1 car is unusable.
Well, as long as they both don't need it at the same time, because they're both on duty together.
Couple.
Not to mention, I believe those cars are paid for. Had 1 year left on.
Lease purchase, and I don't remember if that was
It's a
6-year lease or 5 years. We're halfway through.
Yeah, it's a 4-year lease. This is the second one.
We had some questions about economic development. We got into that budget, and we were looking at like a $1,400 phone bill or something. I'd like to go back and move that a little bit. I think that's a little bit excessive.
Did you get the breakout of what that was?
Remember that, Brian, when we were discussing that?
You were, as far as different cell phones, and I'm not sure, I don't think the difference between if you actually change your plan will make a big difference on this year's budget, but I think it would go to recommendation that we're making that's some type of policy to put in place just so it's consistent across the budget.
You know, another thing too is here we are taking out positions in town, we're gonna be losing positions in the school, and we're taking $2,500 and put it in the marching parade, and we're putting, isn't that a thing that is done by the volunteers and stuff like that? So why are we doing that as a town function? That's not a town function, it's a volunteer function.
No, that's a town function.
No, it is not. It's a volunteer function.
The Moxie is a volunteer function?
It's a volunteer function?
It's a town event. I mean, it's basically a town holiday.
It's always,
Well, I mean, think about it, Roger. How many people from town go out and
well,
celebrate
the
Moxie?
thing of it is that you're looking at putting people out of work. We're taking people out of work and we're spending money for, basically,
I don't think with this budget is proposed, Roger, that there's anybody that's getting a pink slip from this budget, though. I mean, that's,
it's steady school kids.
I'm just talking about the municipal budget right now. I mean, unfortunately, I don't control the school one, but, I mean, I agree to a certain point that $2,500 is spread amongst, that is a huge event, with only, if that's only a ticket that you have is a $2,500, I mean, for what that,
Those are Rotary events, though. Those are all sponsored by the Rotary for years.
We don't
The
have
Marching
to.
parade is a Rotary.
Rotary went belly up.
Well, let it go to Judy. We had turkey dinners and stuff, why is that part of town events? Those are done through churches and Rotary.
It brings business to town, recognizes the town, people come and spend money on it, so that creates jobs.
There's what, 35,000 people?
We've had some town money goes into town, I think we should put more money into Moxie.
Oh, yeah.
I do. Because it's a good investment, it's a good investment to bring business to town, bring people to town, so.
The parade costs a lot of money. We have to pay, the Moxie Festival, the committee has to pay for every band, for every group.
Also, the
Yes.
nonprofits, the money that the nonprofits make that day, you can't replace that. A lot of the nonprofits, that is their money for the year. What they make during Moxie days, and for us to hold $2,500 to take that away from them, that's just.
Well, I think most of the money goes to the parade because they're very, very expensive.
yeah, sometimes.
Not
One of the things, Roger, that,
I'm just-
looking at the, economic development, when you look at like the turkey, Thanksgiving dinner, and Moxie, I mean, Dot made a good point of, you made mention of Mark's department, you run like a business where you actually promote, take in. If you look at economic development, I mean, that is the only department in town that's really designed to actually bring more in. I mean, any business, if you run like a business, I mean, what do you figure for an advertisement part of most businesses? Most people figure if you're counting, 5 to 10% of your income needs to be advertisement. I mean, if you look at our town and you look at economic development and what we're actually spending to try to bring people into town, it's really pennies on the dollar. You know what I mean? So again, if you're gonna look at it as a business, you're not gonna get economic development without advertising. And Moxie, to me, is greatly to bring people in town. That $2,500 is a small investment for what you get. Not saying that it equals jobs, I'm not getting that, but I'm just saying if you're looking at the standpoint of being economic development as a business, you get a lot of money to be able to advertise for that. The turkey dinner, when you do events like that, it's not a church event, and you don't have a church in town that's providing it. If you're looking for dollar for what that turkey dinner costs us, for the people that it impacts on Thanksgiving, there's probably not another service in town that actually, penny for penny, actually gets to that bang for the buck. That, if you're talking about, worrying about people that vote, and people that are in town, I mean, that is a big draw. And lots of days the same thing. I mean, again, there's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but, I mean, if you're talking about giving services to people in town,
So you believe that this is more important than school teachers?
I'm thinking the school has their budget, and we have our budget. And we're
It's
not
town
talking-
money.
I agree, but unfortunately, I can't, if the school could sponsor a turkey dinner, I think that'd be a great thing, but the school, I'd rather see the school teach kids and not put turkey dinners on. If we're gonna be doing it, for what it actually costs us, Roger, it's minute, you know?
I think we have to remember that the presentation we got from the school, I cannot quote Mr. Green by any means, but I believe what he told us was that in their reductions, their focus was on maintaining programs. And that
At
they-
some level.
At some level,
Just so
right? So that,
yes.
right, it's not all of them, I mean, the arts and all that other stuff aren't at the same level as they were. But they were able, and what they did, and the way they organized things, was they were able to keep all programs at some level going, which I think is a tremendous feat in what they did, and what they had to do. So it's not like the children have lost everything, you know, in what they need for their education. I mean, I think the school did an excellent job, the hard times that we're in.
The school did a hell of a good job, we did.
I tend to agree with Roger on the Thanksgiving dinner. With all of the churches that we have in town, it seems as though the churches or a church or they could take turns sponsoring the Thanksgiving dinner. I don't think that this should be a function of the development director. I just don't think that it's an appropriate function. The development director should be bringing businesses.
So you're talking pennies here,
I know.
I think we ought to move on and get to bigger, better things. We got bigger problems than before.
The Thanksgiving dinner when you're down there is pretty minor.
Did you have the split on the homes?
Don, there's no dollars in here for the Thanksgiving.
I know there isn't, but, you know,
That was all done through donation last year.
I agree, but I just don't think that should be a function of the development director.
Well, until somebody steps up to the plate, and wants to take it over, I think we ought to keep continuing to do it, because it's a great service to the town, but anyways.
And I believe it's all volunteer time.
It's all volunteers.
It's amazing what the people are complaining
I know, I
about.
used to
People
be-
coming in on a holiday and working all day to serve the people of town. I mean, to actually to slam that, I can't imagine that being done. But again, I
The
mean,
former Rotarians are here.
yeah. Were you out Turkey Day this year?
Huh?
Volunteering to the town?
I
You know?
have baked pies for the Thanksgiving dinner, and I have worked at them, so I know.
So you
what
can
it-
see the
I
reward
know
that's
what it-
there. You know,
I
you can-
do.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that it's a function of the, I'm.
Does that change, does that affect the budget?
No, no. it
So then
doesn't.
let's stick with the budget. Take you back to budget, not to cut you off.
I don't mean to harp on professional development, but $4,500 to the town manager for professional development when he makes $80,000 a year plus $4,000 mileage. $1,500 a year for professional development for the, economic development. Let's see, how many others? You know, this is a lot of money. And like I said, I went on the MMA website, and they offer all of these professional development classes. I spoke with a friend last night who used to work for the wastewater treatment plant in Brunswick. And he said that he took all of his continuing education classes right in Maine. Town of Brunswick offered a lot of them. He said, we didn't spend a lot of money on professional development. The state offers them. So why are we paying over $31,000 for professional development? To me, that's a lot of money.
Yes, like, chief, the fire department professional development, I mean, that's just not the average. I mean, that's a
52
requirement.
individuals.
That's basically a requirement to keep
Those
our
are
officers.
firefighter 1, firefighter 2 classes and everything that all go. 240
And I have an asterisk by that stating that, yes, these are volunteers, and I feel that the town should be paying for that because they're volunteer, but a lot of the others.
Don, would you just like it explained, or what?
I mean, professional development is in the budget to keep our employees educated in the functions that they perform to the municipalities so they can continue to serve the citizens of the town.
I agree.
Right? So they need to stay educated.
Some of them
The
are
laws
required
change.
for CEUs and things like that.
Right.
They
I
have to
don't think
stay.
I don't think she disagrees with that. She's saying that MMA
But we do,
All
Yes.
of these things that,
we take, most of the classes that we take are MMA.
so is this, how much is this as MMA and this 30?
Well, it might be costs for, I can't give you a breakdown what it's per class because they all vary, depends on how long it is, who's giving the presentation. Every MMA program, a class that I've seen is under $100, which is, for professional development, you're talking pretty cheap. You know, if you were to work in the healthcare industry or any other private industry, you would pay 3 to 4 times that per class. So we get a very good discount. But there are other classes that cost more money. So, and you want to keep, you know, we send people to very specialized conventions to get more educational stuff there and to network with people that are doing the same thing that they are. It's very, very important. Here are the bills.
When we first started talking about this budget, we were looking to save money. And now, it doesn't matter. We can make the budget, we can spend it, it's not gonna be a problem. We were gonna touch undesignated fund, but we're into that now for, who knows, probably $350. It's like, what are we, a budget contortionist that can speak from both sides of our mouth? We go from one thing to another thing all the time. A month ago, we were looking to save money. We were looking at all aspects to save money, and now tonight, all of a sudden, money is just overflowing. Spend it. We look at ways to save money. Nobody wants to look at that. All they want to look at is, hey, we need that. That's a good promotion for the town. People, homes are going up for sale everywhere. Does anybody see the same picture that I see?
One of the things I think, Roger, is, again, the last time that we really need direction from the idea of coming back with a decent budget, save jobs, and keep capital. I mean, we almost went away with an Boston message. And there's been reductions to the budget since the last time we talked. So, I mean, it isn't like we added and added and added. It's actually, the direction we gave them is the direction you kind of went. I mean, I'm not sure what else you'd ask. I mean,
Did you get down through the list of all the reductions you did? Zero. You said we're adding money, but in reality, it's brought us in tens of thousands of dollars of less money. And I don't understand your argument, man.
Oh, Doc brings up a very good point. It is $17,000, regardless of whether you want to look at it or not.
Look at it. I got it.
The raise, we haven't even discussed raise. We got told when the finance director was hired, no raise. No raise at all for 2 years, for who knows how long. Well, then we put that raise in. So you go to the finance director's budget, boom, it's in there. Why all of a sudden is it in there, Steve? You told us one thing, then you say another.
That's not true, Roger.
That is true. You sat right in there and told us that, Steve.
No.
Did you? Did you or did you not say that? Come on, Dale, be honest.
It's executive session, and you can't discuss it.
Okay, we won't discuss it, Steve, we'll just spend it.
Okay, Roger, let's look at where the increases are. Take a look at the increases. This town supported a $228,000 increase by bonds. $228,000. What does that tell you? Okay, we just got hit with almost a $60,000 increase from our water department. But that's okay, you know? So we're, not only are we... Huh?
We sat right here and told the water department to go for it. As a council, we voted to let
But
them...
you're agreeing to a $60,000 increase, okay?
I don't
Versus
think
the
that-
users of that
That is
paying for it
fire
themselves.
protection, Steve.
I'm just highlighting, Roger. We have an increase to our health care. You know, we don't have any control over that. And we're still working to cut the costs there. That's not done.
There's a lot of places we could save all through this budget. But every time somebody brings something up that they want to try to save money in the budget, we come up with the best argument in the world why we shouldn't do it.
So we all argued against you that we don't agree with the Moxie parade, and we don't agree with the turkey dinner, so
We're looking to
we're all
save
wrong.
money. We're looking to save money.
Okay, but we don't agree with you, so.
Okay, so
drop
next
it.
week you're gonna sit up here and tell us, I just go back to the State House and it's still looking too good because this
Alright.
money is not coming or that money is not coming, and then you're gonna sit here tonight and tell me everything
Make a
is
straw
going.
poll on these things so we can move on.
Right.
So if the majority says, we're leaving it in there, let's do that and just move on. We spend here all night talking about $400 turkey dinner.
And
All right.
elections are coming.
Can we be professional here and stop the snide, childish arguments and comments?
That would be great.
Thank you.
Okay, so questions on the budget that the town manager has brought to us?
The one thing I did hear, and maybe on capital, the fire department capital.
That's still in there,
That's
yes.
still listed. Okay. Is there anything of the capital that we did remove besides the?
Public Works building.
Public Works building.
There were some trucks, things that they wanted this year, we took that out originally. I think that was.
Instead of the pay-as-we-go, we're kind of going, we kept all
And
that in.
if we did it, like I said before, if, it would be great if we could do pay-as-you-go. This is not the economy to do it, because it would cost you an additional $150,000 to get started on that for all the other things that we have. That I didn't put in.
But I mean, as far as pays, what we've been doing, as far as fire department stuff,
It's pay as
we're
you
not
go.
reversing that trend.
That's all right.
What equipment was it that was being eliminated from the solid waste? Was that, did you say that that was being put back in?
That's in there. Yeah, the container, yeah, and the 4-in-1 bucket is in there.
Any other questions?
I'm just trying to figure out the police budget a bit here with the communications department being broken out of it. The new communications line is 174,000 right there. And the police therefore is going down by 151, so the net increase that we combined.
It's about 23,000, yeah.
So where's that coming from?
That's based on wages.
Even though we lost the active position? That makes up the entire position, wage increase of that much?
Percentage, but that's one position, and 1.75% increase is going to.
Well, it was the one position, I mean, the 1.75 was what, 50-something thousand across the entire municipal budget.
Steve, what, how much of a tax increase do we have to do in order to support the budget as is? Is this budget able to keep spending?
If, based on our current total valuation, okay, and what we have for the revenue side, we're looking at anywhere between 75 cents to $1 increase to the tax rate.
School and
School and
Municipal combined.
there's none of us want to see taxes increase, but just what, you know, there's a lot of people always have concern that it's going to affect more than others, but looking at the, I mean, given credit where the school is as far as what they made for cuts and their increase, and the bulk of what we see for an increase for this, I should say the bulk of this, where a large percent of the share is from the school side, but there's also an increase on our side also. So I mean, it's between the two. I mean, if we go back to that, like kind of a straw poll that we picked at, we'd want to be the max 1 mil, hopefully less. I mean, I think we're almost trying to achieve that to a certain extent and keeping all the capital and not giving any pink slips. So I mean, it's not a I'm not gonna call it a win-win because it's still a loss because we're actually gonna reduce our employees and also the tax increase, but, I think at the end of the day, regardless what the municipal side does, to maintain our school system to some level, we're gonna have a tax increase regardless how we do it. So I think the idea of coming across with no tax increase is almost unrealistic, even if we're not even considering our second budget. I would be willing to see how this actually moves forward and have this as an initial budget that we could actually look at and give out to people and devour it a little bit and take a look at it. I mean, that's one of the goals we had coming in. At the end of the day, the only thing we could do here, and I'm not, you know, I do agree with Roger and Dot that you go through this budget and kind of nickel and dime a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's not going to change the idea if we actually have a tax increase, I don't believe. Are they areas to look at in the future? Probably, you know, every area of the budget has to be looked at, but to move forward, I mean, unless we're actually thinking about taking something drastic out or really kind of throwing another stone at the school department, I think we need to come to some agreement that the budget is actually kind of in the right direction and not if we're going to have a tax increase, but where we want to limit it to. Unless someone has a really great idea that we haven't complicated.
I guess I don't have a problem with using this as a summary, but to see how the public reacts to it. I think this is a good starting point.
Absolutely.
I think all of us agree that the school did a fantastic job putting their budgets together. And I think we need to get some feedback from the public on both sides, and I think this is a good starting point for feedback. I mean, I personally am willing to go ahead with this proposal tonight and see what we get for feedback.
The only thing I'd like to see is a kind of summary of what the losses of service would be.
Excuse me?
Like a sort of a summary of what the loss of service from this budget would be, just so you can tell each department, you know, we're gonna lose a day at the library, a day at the lose,
No.
you're not gonna lose anything.
Right now, this
This
is
may
no
take-
loss of service.
No loss of service.
Now, if people don't want an increase, then you say, okay, now you know, we'll take a loss of service and come in flat. At least we got something for people to bounce off of that I think is reasonable.
How are you going to eliminate streetlights?
I'm still waiting for the survey to be done. I told them I needed it by the first meeting of May. So once I have that, Brian and I will sit down and go through it and highlight. I've got to sit down with Chief Brooks because it's all about safety as well. Making sure people can see in their
Right, we
neighborhoods.
just want to come through it so we can figure out if there's any additional savings.
I took 10,000 out of this budget, so I think we can probably eliminate
So you've already taken 10,000 on the street light?
10,000 out of this.
The water increase for the fire hydrants and for the water usage, that's going to be subject to your approval, right? That has to be
PUC,
voted.
yeah.
PUC,
It's
and then also
effective
voted.
July 1.
It is effective this year, then does that actually go to public vote also?
It depends on whether or not they petition it. If the public petitions the water department, like they did last time on the rate increase, then there has to be a public hearing with the PUC and the water department, go through, listen to the public complaints and reasonings or whatever, and then the PUC takes that information along with what the water department supplied them and make a final rule on that.
Chief Gallipo, the hydrants that they're going to be putting in on Route 9 and Upland Road aren't going to be usable, is that correct? Because we don't have the water pressure.
From the engineering, I didn't want to mention that, the meeting that we sat in on, the engineer basically said that from what I heard that night, that fire hydrants on Upland and Ridge Road would actually be very dangerous to the rest of our water system because at the highest point, it would actually suck our
So they're going to put them in, but they won't be functional until they get a standpipe. So,
I mean, that's what I got from, and Roger, I think you were there that night when they were talking about the hydrants, the idea of just no.
Well, they talked about putting pumps in to qualify for it.
Yeah, and if they were to put the big pump up
They
there.
talked about putting pumps in for fire protection. Now that, at the bottom of the upland at one time. And who knows where they are now.
Yeah, I don't think.
My
They're looking at
last understanding from the commissioners was that they really didn't want to go with that booster pump approach. They really want to go to the sandpipe approach, and they've been having discussions with some people on Route 9 to look into obtaining some access or whatever to put in a sandpipe. So,
But I think a lot of this has to be, I mean, I think you're right, this needs to be in there because that's like Roger said, we actually, as a town, we actually kind of, in a sense, talked about the idea that possibly these rate increases.
I guess what I'd like to maybe suggest on that though is, we can guarantee we're not going to use them. Can we go back to the water department and have them push that expense until such time?
Well, the expenses, the increase in the water rates is based on.
the cost they're spending, not the water we're using.
No,
It's putting in the pipeline.
It's putting in the new pipeline.
Right.
That's what it's already.
That's only the upland road pipe, because
They can charge us as the 30%.
we're paying for the 9.
System, even though we don't use 30% of the water, and we're close to it.
The cost increase to the town to pay for the pipeline. It's not, whether or not we use it.
Is that gonna be a one-time cost then for the pipe, or is that?
Oh, no,
ongoing?
So it doesn't go forward. But the one thing I would like to ask the water department is to make sure in their calculation that they didn't include $600,000 or $700,000 that we're paying for
No, they didn't,
in their cost.
because when it came back from the PUC, it was 1.2 million. So, and that's when the question was raised about the Route 9 project.
And that's something the PUC, they come back and water is figured that a third goes to the customers, a third goes to fire protection, and a third goes to businesses and community. And that's what it comes out to. That's what the initial cost is.
Getting more trucks, more water in trucks too.
Third use, we don't use a third any longer.
That's what they're allowed, that's what they're allowed to
It's
charge.
not the usage, it's the percentage of it, how it's actually,
To the commissioner's defense, they did the analysis by not charging the town any increase for any of the fire hydrants. And they looked at what that would do to their water users increase. And they looked at, I think, Commissioner Wells and Commissioner Bowers, there's like 2 or 3 different options that they looked at, from a pricing scheme to see what they could most equitably go forward with that was reasonable to their water users. And unfortunately, it turned out that they had to include us in that mix.
with one of the meetings one night, we understand where the principle goes to is you, in easy sense, you take your overall operating budget, and you take a percentage of that, and that has to be for fire protection. So every time you increase their operating budget, you increase fire protection. Percentage from what they were expecting.
Yep.
They didn't used to charge that. There are a lot of legal that charge 30%.
Mr. Bauer came with a presentation tonight that we had to call a meeting for lack of participants, but he was going to explain to everybody how that going and how it has to be the way that it is.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Don?
Dale said that he would not mind going forward to a public hearing with this budget to give them something to chew over. But I got the feeling also that it's not one you want to support.
I'm certainly, as far as the school goes, with the cuts that they've made and everything, I don't know how you can't, how you can have, I personally.
No, what I'm getting at is if that went forward like this, is this one that even the town council even remotely thinks about accepting? Why
Yes.
should it take something to the public that was,
So I won't hear from the public, right?
Yeah.
The public says, this is reasonable in the situation we're in, and I think that we should support the public. If public says we can't afford any more taxes, and they kind of get, excited about an increase, then I think we have to come back and maybe find them, find some more money. I think it's a starting point. I think it's a reasonable budget to put up in the public. As a school, I think, I mean, I'll speak for everyone here, but I think we was all satisfied the other night, as far as I can tell. They did a great job.
So do we have any additional questions for the budget? Any unanswered questions that council or the advisory board feels they need?
What I have is we talked about 1.75% increases. What effective, I don't know what the dollar amount on different percentage increases are. For example, if you went with 1.5 or 1.25 or 1 or whatever.
The total was what, like 50-something?
I couldn't read it in this thing.
50-something thousand.
Wasn't it 56?
I think it's 50, yeah, 1.75.
So without giving them zero raise, there's still potential for something going on. Right. With no layoff.
Right.
Or no floor.
Right. I think that's where we get feedback from the public to say, you know, there is some other areas we can go. Yeah, that's what I thought.
As a board, I'd like to kind of, maybe we should break off, maybe make a recommendation, our recommendation, to do it tonight, informally, just like you can do it. And then go from there.
Yeah, if you would like to do that, that'd be fine. Steve, didn't you have a listing of what each percentage was?
I did.
I got it, but I can't read it.
I don't have it on it. I just went through
Have it in your office?
I might have it on my computer. I can go grab that.
It's this big.
I thought I had that one night.
You did.
This one. I had one.
Where do you read it?
Moments before I came here, I got one email from one person in town, and it was somebody that wanted to increase the taxes. The same person you guys, I'm sure, got it from as well.
Yeah.
And non-employees.
It's not broken out
Talks about
from 1 to
picking up, going out,
1.75.
you know, to a.
So-
It would be easy enough
I
to
think
add
about
those
my
in.
Dunkin' Donuts coffee at $1.87. I could give up for really a year.
Yep, it's 60.
I think we can just keep that.
Yeah.
25 grand.
No, that would be total.
See, that or assessing.
The difference between, I believe this is the difference between the
downside.
percent and 1.75. So it would be a 37,000.
I come to.
We don't have.
Serves its purpose.
Right, so I'm really fearful about something.
That is easy enough to.
We're not funding this, we're
That-
doing
that-
it.
Something to drink?
It's only gonna be $7.
You want some more?
What the recommendation is and what that percent
Somebody
is
on
would
$100,000
provide.
only get a $75 increase in their bill, and have it be, more than that, $150. So I'm cautious about saying that.
To make sure that things are.
But Roger, my point is that people need to come forward and say what our recommendations are.
I think any increase is
Costume show up to ridiculous and stuff like that too.
People need to come
How
forward.
school teachers have their kids around the class.
They need to actually.
It's interesting, the conversation they had.
bumper or something. Huh?
Yeah, I wrote the email, did you guys not see that?
Stuck on the
That
bike.
was uncomfortable.
Can't be ever people that get rid of it.
He said, don't you know?
And all the people that usually make it.
That's what they said. Oh, yeah, I wrote the email, that was uncomfortable, people are lying to us.
I mean, it's next Tuesday, well, actually, that's postdated.
I think we did.
They look a lot more confused than we do.
I thought you should be.
Yeah, when I first went by,
I'm not saying to increase the budget. Mark just said, here, let's do, 2 mil.
The problem is, it's a hard time when you go around the table and say, 1 mil.
But I think from here, the council actually make on some that you're being handled. At this point in last year, we were talking about revamping all departments, well, the budget was really.
it's so regional.
Came up with one person in, well,
As many people as who advertise that position,
well, you know what? Comes in anywhere next year with the state, so there you go. Shortfall, we're gonna
It'll be like Wanda. Go to the sheriff's department. It'll be like Wanda, go to the sheriff's department. Texas hired a I tell you what, I've been in some conversations with Florence about I'll tell you that. Meeting here in that would be
How about the dispatch? About the dispatch?
Cindy always says, oh, afternoon nap, so we don't go to shopping. She's under your desk.
I mean, you can get it, but we just go locally.
I'm not saying, I'm saying, he has a special interest in it. Keep that in mind.
It's gonna cost this town a lot.
Keep the special interest in mind. He doesn't want to hear.
That's a lot more money than the other.
Get in there every day, so
I'm telling you, taxes are gonna be that, it's gonna have another $500,000 to $700,000.
That's where he has to go. So be careful with
One thing in mind.
all about the law.
full surprise was on.
Obviously, because that's where it's coming from, he ought to be supporting where it's coming from, it's like, well, we are more than we
It's under the, Baker's
and we're working, right?
Which I really want to start. And I got a new one. All the pieces. Who knows, like you said.
I really hope that it will rest what it's about and say that something needs to be done.
You're gonna have people
It's
come
such a big theater, isn't it?
No, it's a little,
Yes, it's like that.
it's pretty much the same. And
They're gonna vote that too high, they will vote it down, it's 2,000. They won't come to the public hearing.
You've got the boxes on the road. Oh, yeah, you still get
A lot of parents and students.
It works like a we're at risk now, and continue to be at risk.
Be careful with hospital rental.
It's kind of hard to tell.
Because you're really
ridiculous. We did this.
People don't want to tax license.
Yeah.
Yes, they're small.
No, you can't.
We're made, I got the book on the card, it shows all the states where it's made. Yeah.
The Korean,
It's up now.
finished.
I couldn't believe some of the you look at the statistics across the not that the average, but the rest of the country.
You're losing that, you have, say, an AP class, you could fit 30 kids in one AP class, but you're losing that AP class, you have 9 kids in the class, and that's all that you have, you're we're at that level to sign up for that. So, you can increase the class sizes more by year.
There's so many factors, every municipality is different. It takes statistics.
I just remember being in high school and kind of fighting with those like AP type classes. A couple of subjects we had.
Three of us, three Norway,
It's frustrating, right? Frustrating when it's hard to try to go to college and come off of the class.
Did you ever get on with it?
I guess I am confused about that.
This year, people are not going to get a return at all. The economy. You have to do it all
And sort of the ones who sold this part, it was just really.
The last 2 years. Really big.
Yeah. You're single then?
So what you have more easy. So was already approved from this. And that was done by, that was done by. Still sold out. And the law controversy about that.
Baseball field, yeah, those are now the regulations. He was a baseball.
I don't feel prayers. It's pretty sure this is the last page, and it gives you the total.
For the friends. He used to go to the town manager and say, this is what she made for Palm County buying it for her time to so she's made this. So this is where this town office wants to go, maybe I need to call the newspaper and say, she don't want to serve anybody. Check because I'm not public.
It was like Bath and Brunswick.
Imagine that, here, you guys did that, you went over for his nomination signals, I kept calling back to town office. Oh, we gave them to LE, whatever it was. Yeah, and I called Chase Surgeon, Rick Panda, to get these other things. Finally, I got LE called. They didn't give us anything. Finally, we got that's right. I called the Secretary of State, I had someone call Secretary of State. They called down there. Come to find out, probably took us nomination papers, come out, over the trash can. But they were down there. So then we were told that, go pick them up, we go over there, sheriff's there, sheriff couldn't do anything about it. Because some of the nomination papers was a guy running for sheriff, so the state police and the attorney general had to get involved.
Do they know who actually did the ripping?
They can't. We think we know, but you can't prove it.
So today, Garrett went to the turn of town meeting and introduced himself as a candidate. The clerks.
You're on the wrong side.
You're on the wrong side.
Talk to me.
He went up there today to get the certified check. Because I don't know if I can get this done. Deadline's
Yes.
Because they alphabetically do it first, and they go up on each. Yeah. They got it.
Yeah, yeah. It is.
Don't even move, don't breathe.
That's all to do with the economy. Because you're not doing it, that's not even fair. They're not fair. If the economy hadn't been so bad, they'd still be there. Yeah, you can't blame that on economic development, that somebody can't. Money spent, whatever you need. A lot of stuff. You were here. I ain't trying to be a wise guy, but you're the only guy that I know, other than 3 or 4. I'm not saying that. That's it, I understand. I don't know why you don't see it. Because I'm not sucking up. I'm looking at it. I'm sucking up. Well,
All right, so we have our advisory board members back.
We formally took a vote to support the school budget as proposed for the hearing. And that's minus the deficit of $262,000. So we supported by the town. We also supported the town manager's last proposal with 2 exceptions. 1 to add back assessing, 2 to remove wage increase. They balance each other pretty much out.
So you want to add 58 and take 53 up?
59, 53, yeah. How much paper we want.
Right.
Yeah. That was it.
Good.
Some of the thoughts from that were that in this economy and with a number of people out on unemployment, and the fact that we were able to keep jobs alone without any layoffs, if in the name of team spirit, was a good thing at flat wages.
And also, it's a way of looking forward to promote further increase in the future by getting the assessment done, which will effectively get us more money for the future. Faster.
Look for the future.
So what are council's thoughts?
I think if you looked at it as future planning, it makes a lot of sense, that recommendation. But far as the wage thing's another whole battle, another whole issue though. Okay. Certainly,
I think
if employees
today-
were accepting to that, we were gonna get our assessing done and get to where we need to be. That's an awesome goal to meet.
And the, couple things. One is, I had originally brought up the assessing as you take it off. And again, I know Steve and everybody's working really hard on it. Two reasons I brought that up. One is, number one, the dollar factor. But beyond that is the idea of, I think the town is under a major undertaking right now with the idea of just land assessment, going in for doing that, and just what's actually come up and the work that's going to need to be put in, and just making sure that all the personal property tax, everything goes through as the way it should be. Just to implement, one thing I really said initially is, not implement, but really to stand behind it is, the idea of actually reassessing the town, my goal is that it's not to increase our tax base by actually getting more money for the people of Lisbon, is the idea of bringing us to 100% evaluation, which may not increase our bottom line at all when it comes to revenues. Because as long as everybody understands that, that's not our goal, is to reevaluate the town and actually end up with another $400,000 or $500,000 of revenue.
We understand that reassessing the town doesn't increase town revenue.
Well, that's when you mentioned the idea of a hope to maybe get more money for raises. So that's,
What I meant is
that's,
by, yeah, raising our evaluation so we can get more of the homestead and more of the land grant.
yeah, but you realize that none of that goes to town revenue. The town
Goes
does
right
not,
to the town taxpayers.
exactly, again, but
Which
it
is
doesn't, it
money they
doesn't,
put out.
exactly, but it doesn't go to our tax. You know, homestead and timber doesn't actually increase our revenue side of the town at all. It won't give us any more money to pay our people. It will give the taxpayers more money to support us to actually raise taxes, but it won't actually.
It takes the same tax bill, it funnels the money directly from the state to the owner through the town and reduces the taxes by the amount of that.
Right, I
That's
think,
it.
I think Council Larachel's point is, and what I thought I heard as well, I think what he's referring to is that you took the 58,000 out, added the 58,000 in, so that you could generate, what I thought I heard was so you could generate revenue, so that in the future you could give raises. And that 58,000 for assessing isn't going to drive anything towards supporting giving raises in the future.
That was a poor choice of words on my part.
And again, that's one point I wanted to, just to make sure, because again, as Roger says, it all comes out of the same pocket. So, you know, whether you pay the taxes. The other part was, it's just on assessing. I mean, I want to make sure that we don't rush through our assessing, our reevaluation. I'd rather see it actually go slower. And maybe I'm just being critical about the idea. I'd rather see us take our time. We've been waiting a long time to do it. So if it takes us to get a new property and to get the personal property tax in place, next year we still actually, in our next budget, can actually do the measurement and the house part of it. So I didn't think the idea of, I mean, still something needs to be done, but if we can actually get close to 70 with what we're working with right now. So I didn't, the idea of taking the assessment out wasn't the idea of not to do it, but just to make sure that we're doing what we're doing now with the resources we have and make sure it's done the proper way before we move to that next step. That was my concern. The second part of that is with wages is going through the budget we had last year. And again, there's a lot of people that's not getting raised. I mean, this year, being a business owner, I got a deduction in wages. I got a deduction last year in wages. I think that's just kind of the philosophy, but when you go and in good faith say, hey, look, take a zero this year, you know, we're gonna cut back your health care, and hopefully this will make us stronger. Well, unfortunately, revenues didn't become stronger, but at some point in time, you're gonna show the people in town that, again, two things. One is, the person that was working next to you that helped you do your job is no longer gonna be there, so you do both jobs, but we're not gonna give you a raise in the process. I mean, so we're actually, the town employees are actually getting less staff, so they're gonna need more, you have to do more. We're gonna carry a heavier load. And I'm just wondering how far we can actually keep going with 0% and keep increasing that load, and before we actually make it look like we're asking a lot for it. And that's my point.
Personally, I think it'd be nice if instead of a pay raise, if you could at least give some kind of bonus, but then that gets all kind of wrapped up in political.
Right. Any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think certainly we do need to do a reval at some point. It's just that, you know, most times usually they hire an outside firm to do a reval and it would cost us like $300,000 or something. And so it's kind of an unusual process. I mean, I do want to say, I think Steve's doing a good job trying to find alternative ways to do it cheaper, but it's a process that is kind of experimental, so I think that's why some of us want to not rush into it too fast, because, you know, if you see this personal property thing, it kind of people get mad and riled up about it, so I want to take it slow enough that we can adjust it if there's problems. That's one of the reasons that maybe some of us felt we should hold on for a year, see how the first one goes.
Any other comments? I don't want to put words in the advisory board's mouth, so I want to make sure. When you said you're okay with the town manager's budget with the 2 exceptions, that still leaves the bottom line basically the same.
Yes.
So are you okay with the sheet that we have in front of us going out to support the public hearing the way it is, knowing that there is still the openness to continue to discuss your 2 exceptions?
I don't think we voted on it, but that's probably what you guys.
Because I'm not sure I can get council tonight to make some type of an agreement on whether to put one in and take the other out or whatever, but
Everybody can speak, but I think personally, that getting something out is more important than not.
We'll see what the public has to say.
and I think- right, and I think it's a good point for discussion. It'd be good to hear what the public has to say about those particular items and issues as well, and the advisory board is, you know, you'll speak at the meeting as well anyway, so we hope you do. I mean, we want to show that we're trying to do this together. So I guess I heard from Dale that he's okay to support this. I heard from Kern, he's okay to support this. Mark, you're okay to support this. Roger, you're okay to support this summary budget?
I will not support it.
Okay. Lori?
Yes, I will support it going forward, however, I do have one question. Steve, you took out the money for the reval, but when we were talking about the assessment budget, there was an increase in hours, there was an increase in temporary wages to be able to do the reval, and there was also an increase in the postage. Did that include that figure that you were quoting on here?
No.
Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, the 58 was just the personnel costs, additional personnel costs.
The part-time people to do the measuring
Right.
and everything.
Right.
And didn't adjust the assessor's increase in hours.
But I thought that was part of why we were increasing the hours, was to accommodate for.
No, that wasn't the only reason. It's just that he's got a lot of work to do. And he can't do it in the short time he has. And there's other reasons, some changes that we're making here that proposing.
So the answer to your question is yes, I support Lauren's moving and the workshop that we're going forward to talk about. It's important to them. We need to know from.
Yes, as a summary preliminary budget, yeah.
Okay. And I as well am in favor of that. So, if I understand what council wants to do in the advisory board, is that we're going to have 2 public hearings. We're going to continue forward with the one on the 27th. We'll use a revised, I won't say revised version, but we're going to eliminate some columns on this sheet. We'll put in last year's budget, this year's budget recommendation, the percent difference, and then, Steve, I would suggest we put a written page behind that that explains the big hitters at the department level, basically, as you kind of went through with us today, is what's represented in the budget as a handout to have. And we will have a public hearing on the 27th, as we had originally planned, and go through everything. And at the same time, within the next day or 2, we will post this budget for a public hearing notice for May 11th. And we will...
And we'll hold that here during our regular meeting.
I think I don't know, that's going to be difficult because we got to put the location in the public hearing, don't we?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, it depends on what we get for participation on Tuesday, I think, as to whether or not we think we can hold it here. I would tend to say, let's hold them both at Lisbon Community School. That way, we're safer to do that. That way, if there's nobody that shows up, then there's just a group of 20 of us here, and we'll go through a public hearing, be done with it. If there's forecast of 1,000, so great, we got the space.
On the same side.
Right, okay. So that will go in the paper within the next day or two.
Yep.
So that that's publicized. And then, when we go back for the public hearing on the 11th, we'll have the same recommended budget unless we've made any additional changes based on the first public hearing. We could go back with a revised handout that's slightly different than what was actually in the public hearing. We'll just have to explain that to the people that come to the public hearing on the 11th. As to why there might be any changes. You know, if we hear that we got it reduced by another $200,000, so we go back and do that, we'll come in with a revised budget for that $200,000. Okay? Any other questions, concerns, or comments from anybody?
Mr. Chairman, will that start probably at 7 o'clock or what time will it start?
The meeting on the 27th is scheduled for 7. Right, and I believe we'll post the public hearing for May 11th at the
Same time.
27th at 7 as well.
One, I'm not sure if it'll be this public hearing or the last one, we had mentioned that they would actually department head to answer questions.
Department heads will be at both public hearings to answer questions.
Yes, they will.
Yeah, just making sure I know they mentioned it.
Yep.
Is the public going to see a bottom line figure, like what this means for taxes and all that kind of stuff?
We can only estimate.
As an estimate.
Right, I mean, I think what we could do, if everybody's willing, is if we take this sheet that we have in front of us, and we add a, you know, we say total municipal line, right? And we can add a line for what the school is, and what their difference is, and then we can total the total difference being the 423 or whatever, and then we can put a line on there that says, based on estimated evaluation and everything, mill rate increase could be anywhere between 75 cents and $1, right, as we discussed here tonight. So I think we could put that on that sheet. We can either put it on this sheet, or we can add it as part of the write-up on
I'll
the
talk
back
to
sheet.
Rick tomorrow morning, kind of put our heads together how we want to make it look.
Right.
They should want to see that.
That way they can just see it all on one page.
Existing mill rate right now is
25.50.
Any other
Goes up to 70%.
questions, concerns, comments from Council Advisory Board?
Is there anything else that we need as far as, the last time we actually had a public hearing, they wanted paperwork to see that this will actually.
Well, I think giving them this, with all of this, and my goal would be to go, I have to work it out with the school, but at least on the municipal side, my goal is to just ask for each, go through each department and ask if there's any questions. If there's not, we'll move on to the next one.
And they all have the papers.
And they'll all have this as a handout.
That works.
So we don't have to worry about, I mean, I think we've heard in the past that, you know, we just open the public hearing up and some people ask school questions, some people ask, you know, municipal questions. We'll still separate the two. We'll say, okay, all questions for the school, you know, that go first, go through all their stuff and have all their questions answered, and then we can go through each municipal department. That sounds reasonable to everyone. Okay. All right, nothing else, thank you all.
Do you have the phone things there?
Oh, yep.
Thanks.
You think you can get 20 years out of it?
20 years out of it.
There's a new one, to make it.
You haven't seen it, go online. My guy saw it, there's a new car manufacturer out there. And they're telling everybody that car will last 25 years.
Wait, what's the punchline?
No, I'm serious.
It costs $1.50.
Well, they said that if you take a police car as you see today, and you Take the cost of the car, all the equipment, everything's in the car, blah, 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 that's the cost of their car.
They're fully outfitted.
This car is fully outfitted, by the lights, the built-in defenders. It's like something out of robot hell.
I saw that on the well or something.
Yeah, and they're saying that car will be over 5 years, but I can't, when I press on the website on it, I'm looking through it,